Part 63. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 622. Circles of colorful clothing textures. The little angel Kamichia holds up the wave candy in her hand, her eyes full of anticipation. Sister, do you want to eat? With a majestic expression that was supposed to only appear on the faces of parents, Veneto glanced at Kamichia coldly, turned his head away and looked at the bell tower not far away. The minute hand is pointing to 12, which seems to be the hour. Don't eat. Kamichia took back the wave candy, stretched out her pink tongue and licked it, and finally stuffed the entire wave candy into her mouth, her face suddenly bulging. Her voice was strange, it's obviously delicious. Except for Veneto, all the little Lolita were holding big wave candies. They stood side by side, creating a beautiful scenery. It's enough attention for ordinary people, but if those members of the Would You Like Some Rabbit Today club members were here, they would be crazy enough to start fighting again. There is the cute little angel Kamichia, full of energy. The little demon Aviel, the traitor of the destroyer, clearly looks like a girl, and her weak expression makes people think that she should be classified as a little Lolita. Antonio, the big loli who likes to cause trouble, looks confused and needs a beating at the moment. There is also a Beijing-style Ugolini who is charming and full of support at a young age. I want a hug, I want a kiss. Veneto doesn't mind as long as whoever can get a quickie. As for wanting to hug yourself, the death penalty will be executed immediately. Walking at an intersection, a taxi parked next to it. The middle-aged driver was smoking beside him, and the smoke ring slowly flew into the sky. Veneto looked at the little loli next to him and asked, "We have to rush back in the evening and do some shopping. We can only go to one place. Where do you go first, the park, the zoo or the amusement park?" Kamichia said, "I want to go to the zoo." "Go to the playground first." The little loli chattered for a while, and finally decided to go to the amusement park. It took half an hour to get to the destination and bought 5 children's tickets. "I want to ride the Ferris wheel." Antonio looked at the surrounding amusement facilities and she bit her finger. The pirate ship is better, and the roller coaster seems to be fun too. Kamichia sat on top of a cannon designed for people to take photos and yelled, "Roller coaster, roller coaster, roller coaster." Aviel is the only one who is weak. She doesn't speak, and no one will listen to her anyway. She can do whatever she wants. There was a disagreement again. Everyone turned their attention to the eldest sister. Veneto crossed his arms and said, "You can play whatever you want. It's a little girl's game anyway, and I won't play it." Aviel looked at the carousel next to him, with lights flashing and music playing continuously. There were not so much children, but mostly adults, all of them couples. However, before she wanted to speak, she was immediately glared at by Veneto, and she immediately did not dare to say anything. Veneto finally made a decision, "Go to the Ferris wheel first." Kamichia asked curiously, "Sister, do you also play?" "Not playing. I want to play with you." There were stairs. He hesitated for a moment, thinking that he was just playing with others. Veneto said in a helpless tone, "In this case, I have no choice. I came out to accompany you today, so as not to spoil the fun." First we went to the Ferris wheel and then to the carousel, which was at the pirate ship venue. Kamichia, Antonio, and Ugolini all ran onto the pirate ship, while Aviel stood outside and watched with envy. She didn't play, mainly because she didn't dare to play. Veneto didn't go up either. Her purpose was to accompany Aviel, and she was worried that the traitorous lowly destroyer would be harassed by others, probably. Sure enough. "Little girls, aren't you going to play?" Aviel turned around and immediately saw a woman in a white dress standing next to her. She was not very beautiful, but her smile was gentle. She replied, "I don't dare to play." The woman smiled, "It's very exciting, it won't fall off." Aviel still shook his head, and the woman looked at Veneto again and asked, "Are you scared too?" Veneto said nothing and looked at the other party coldly. Suddenly I felt a little cold, but the sun was shining brightly. Strangely, the woman asked curiously, "Where are the adults in your family?" Veneto's movements and expressions remained unchanged, and the woman finally felt a little uncomfortable. "Ha, I'm leaving. My friend called me. You must follow the adults and don't get lost." Veneto said decisively, "To be courteous for nothing is to commit adultery or to steal." Aviel thought to himself that the eldest sister, who is obviously very gentle, has no ill intentions at all. As a ship girl, I know this very well. After walking around the amusement park, it was almost noon. After leaving the amusement park, I was going to go shopping. The haunted house is not scary at all. The mummy wanted to touch my head, so I opened his hand with a lot of force. The pirate ship is not scary either. I haven't encountered big waves on the sea yet. The man sitting in front of me is a fat man. When the pirate ship shakes, he screams. Ah! He screams like a pig being killed. It's so unpleasant. Looks like he's about to wet his pants. This time it was Carmichael's turn. She said, "Antonio Zion, you have never seen a pig being killed. How do you know he screams like a pig being killed? You're so annoying, the situation has changed. There are many fish in the lake. I want to jump in and catch them. I want to." Before taking 2 steps, Kamichi remembered seeing many parents with their children in the playground. She showed a melancholy expression. "I miss the Admiral. Even though we haven't seen each other for a long time, some people are still unforgettable. It is precisely because there is still nostalgia and pursuit that I cannot forget people and things, and I can still live in the world as a ship girl. A superhuman ship girl whose only weakness is emotion." Usually annoyed with this little Lolita who likes to cling to him, Veneto reached out and touched Kamichi's head. "With your eldest sister, it doesn't matter if you are an admiral or something like that." The child's face, like the March sky, changes at a moment's notice. Kamichi suddenly became happy. "Sister, I like you. Where are we going now?" Veneto thought about the original plan and said casually, "Store. The one from last time." Ugolini said, "I want a hat. I want sunglasses. My sunglasses are not scary at all. They won't scare anyone." "No need to be fierce," Veneto said helplessly. "But we are the mafia." "We're not." "Who told you we were?" "But you are the eldest sister." Veneto felt that he couldn't keep up with the rhythm of these little Lolita, and his brain waves couldn't match. "I want a headband. I want to buy a gun, a pistol." Bang 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 dash. Kamichi stretched out his fist first, then raised his thumb, then stretched out his middle finger and index finger. His little hand turned into a pistol, and fired. "Well, I also want to need handcuffs." Veneto said categorically, "Don't think about such strange things. I can't buy it for you. What kind of candy do you want to buy?" 100 pieces of chocolate, and barely 100 boxes of toffee. As they walked by like this, they were suddenly attracted by a figure from behind and stopped. "What are you looking at?" Antonio said, "Sister, look at that person. Don't point your finger at people. It's rude. Let's go." After taking 2 steps like this, everyone stopped together this time. Kamichi raised her hand first. "I want to go over and have a look." True to her word, she ran far away, and Antonio immediately ran over. Mottled tree shadows, gentle breeze, whistles, and noisy voices. Sheng Sheng went to buy a drink but hadn't come back yet. Sugu leaned against the railing and thought about his experiences these days. Without such travel, it would be hard to imagine what would happen to talent and prestige. After all, there are so many people on the cruise ship that it is difficult to spread out, and there will be more people when we return to the town hall. Besides, Prestige would ask for service. It is obviously because she does not have a wedding ship around her, and as a man, she has needs. Otherwise, it would not be like this. She does not have much self-consciousness about being a wedding ship. From this point of view, this trip is worth it. The maid is so impressed that she just waits to get back to the town hall and dress up as a bunny girl. I was already tired from running around. Because of the reputation around me, I feel even more tired. I am tired during the day and even more tired at night. I haven't found Idly Loli yet, so I don't have any merit that I can take credit for. In that case, as a girl, the ship girl will be jealous. Due to their responsibilities, York and Exeter, even as admirals, never heard them reveal what they had heard. At least let people know that the ship girl also has many worries. Think about it again. In the academy, I heard many stories, regardless of whether they are true or false. Love killings, hatchets, imprisonment, dog chains, formalin and so on make people feel frightened. It just so happens that the gentle and virtuous Lexington actually has a dark underbelly. Does he count as playing outside and not going home? I can't find anyone, I'm unhappy, I want a black Venetian, I'm just bored. It has been mentioned many times that it is certain that we must think of some new ways to play. Everyone has their own unique name. For example, everyone named Shenyun, Shenxia, and Suzayazai so that they can clearly distinguish who is who. Name Veneto, if you have a confident mind. If you don't have a confident mind, then call him Chengzu. The name is actually quite nice. It feels good to be approachable. Whenever you compliment Veneto, just say you are really approachable. She must not understand what it means, then it would be interesting. Those who could hear it immediately and reliably in the town hall were none other than Ziwihi, Saratoga, Missouri, and others. Lao Siji Bazai is naturally very powerful, but she is in power-saving mode most of the time, so it probably won't work. Otherwise, teach silly little Lolita to sing, and teach them to touch their chests with one hand to show their sincerity and affection, and finally sing loudly, I don't want, I don't want, I don't want to grow up. Veneto can always see, listen, your expression will definitely become wonderful. I just think about it in my heart, and I don't worry about people hearing me. At most, people will find me snickering, which will make them feel weird. Suddenly there was a banging sound, the railing shook, and something hit the railing. Sugu turned around and saw a little girl throwing herself on the railing. She also put her hands on the railing, resting her head on her hands and looking at herself. The little girl is so cute, but her actions are completely unladylike and naughty, he concluded. Staring at a little girl he didn't know had a bad influence, and being looked at by a little girl also made people feel uneasy. Sugu withdrew his gaze and looked away again. Boom! Another little girl jumped on the iron railing, and Sugu saw another little girl with black hair and twin tails. Then the little girl dangled her hands from the railing and looked at herself. The two little girls, one on the left and one on the right, looked at him intently, which made him feel guilty. I haven't done anything. Thinking like this, he walked away from the railing and got out of the way of the two little girls. Still standing by the railing, Sugu didn't stand for long before he noticed two little girls running next to him. Consultant Su, what do you want? Our eldest sister is there, she wants to see you. If it were two bald and sturdy men wearing suits and sunglasses, they would reach into their suits and make a gesture of pulling out a gun. If you don't have reputation around you, you might feel a little panicked. As for two cute little girls, my only thoughts are, they are so cute, what are you doing? Sugu turned around, and then he saw the little Lolita with white hair and red eyes. She had a dangerous expression and looked like she wanted to hit someone. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 623. Sitting at a small white round table in a roadside shop, next to a short fence covered with roses. It's quite a small shop with a Western style, if not for the fact that the waiters and store managers are both Oriental. Sugu looked at the cute red-haired little loli and asked, "What does Aviel want?" "Have no idea. Here's the menu, order whatever you want, you're welcome." Aviel took the menu, and Antonio, Camicia, and Ugolini immediately came over. As little Lolita, they couldn't wait for Aviel to finish ordering before it was their turn. Antonio pointed to the menu and said, "I want this macaron." Sugu turned to the waiter in black and white uniform and said, "Just write down what they want." "Tiramisu." This was Ugolini's voice. Camicia noticed it keenly and she was quite persistent. She said, "Give the papaya milk to the eldest sister." It was much darker, and it became a habit. Sugu reflexively looked at Venito's chest. Then he immediately reacted, looked at the street again, bit his lips, and absolutely couldn't laugh. At the same time, Veneto glanced at Sugu guiltily. When she saw that Sugu was not looking at her, she immediately narrowed her eyes and her voice became cold. "I don't need you to order for me, I just want coffee." "Then give me chocolate milk and give my eldest sister coffee milk." Camicia didn't give up. Veneto said carefully, "I just want coffee. I searched hard and traveled to many places, but could not find Veneto. I didn't expect that. I finally gave up hope and was about to go back, when I met him by accident. If he had not disembarked from the ship, of course nothing would have happened. Now he has returned to the garrison. If you just randomly searched around and didn't go to so many places, you would probably miss it. It's useless to talk about it so much. Maybe if you don't do such things, you will be in another situation. The fate is so wonderful that no one can explain it clearly." Sugu looked at Veneto. Although he was no longer dressed like in the game, his clothes could still be said to be quite mature. "She is just a nice little Lolita with white hair and red eyes. No matter how mature her clothes are, she still has a straight face. She is just cute and does not feel any majesty. If you show a sinister expression and then the whole face is covered in blood, this may have some effect, but it will become a horror movie again. She looks like a little Lolita, but in fact she is just a fake Lolita. Veneto has a Lolita body and a sisterly heart." Well, the latter point is still open to question. Different attitudes towards different ship girls are required based on their different personalities. I got to know Veneto a little bit in the game, and I mostly relied on what everyone in the town hall said. I also heard a lot from people with reputations. Anyway, I just can't treat Veneto like a Lolita. I ordered a lot of snacks, cakes, juice, milk, and coffee, and then explained the whole journey clearly. The little Loli didn't have so many thoughts. Her heart was full of joy because the important admiral was back. Camicia even ran to Sugu early to ask for a hug. Very realistic thoughts. When we first met, I thought she was a naughty kid. But when I found out she was my ship girl, I immediately turned into a lively little angel. She is obviously a little Lolita." Veneto held the ear of the coffee cup and looked at Sugu. She was very unhappy and smiled disgustedly. "Admiral, you really put a lot of effort into looking for us. Thank you very much." It could be heard from Veneto's dangerous tone that there was no trace of gratitude in his words. Thinking about it, cutting someone up and then bandaging them is completely unworthy of thanks. Sugu quickly said, "No, it's my fault. If Lexington was around, he would have helped defend himself at this moment, and his reputation was never troublesome unless ordered to do so." Although he still looked unhappy, Veneto told everyone what he had experienced. Sugu's heart felt filled with chills. Veneto concluded, "You are looking in the Mediterranean Sea, but you are looking in the wrong direction. Just go straight ahead and you will find the ship girl branch where we are staying." Who could have imagined that hindsight was like a pig beforehand? Sugu said, "I thought you would return to Italy's motherland. First of all, I'm going to correct you. Please call me Italy, not Italy. I can hear the malice in your words. Also, even if Italy is our motherland, there is no Italy anymore. Of course I understand that it used to be called the Old World here, but it is no longer the case. In order to refute, Sugushun said, the land that once belonged to Italy, we saw your sister battleship Roma. Veneto asked, can you fish her out? No, it's not that easy to catch a boat. Sugu still knows himself. Even if we rely on everyone in the garrison, only a few people have been fished out so far. Then she is not my sister. Veneto said so, but she was still a little curious about the Roma after all. Roma, what does she look like? Looking at Veneto's serious little face, I suddenly didn't know what to say. I'm letting you down. There won't be a battleship as pitiful as you. You both are schoolboy battleships, but Roman's cups are many times bigger than yours. Well, you can't say that. 10,000 times 0 is just 0. It can only be said to be much larger. Sugu avoided the easy matter and said, she looks quite similar to you. Veneto took a sip of coffee and laughed. After a pause, he seemed to remember something. As a ship girl, she is sharper than anyone else. She said, I always feel like you are thinking about something bad. It was the same when we met just now, and it is the same now. He was just thinking in his mind, not talking to himself. It was impossible for anyone to hear during the meeting. Sugu's expression did not change. You found me, I was thinking about the town hall. Just now, I was thinking, what should I have for dinner? I didn't directly hear what was said, so there was nothing I could do about it. Moreover, he was the admiral himself, and he didn't even dare to take action. Veneto also knew very well that even if the admiral did something wrong, reputation would never stand idly by and would probably be embarrassed if he was lifted up by reputation. She could only show a skeptical expression and said, really? Really? Sugu's expression had gone through the test of many people in the town guard mansion. We can't go on like this, problems will arise, and the topic must be changed. Sugu picked up the Coke he had just bought from Reputation Original. He took a sip and looked around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Dion only has 5 little Lolita. No, that's totally wrong. He obviously still has Ali's daughter. Andrea, who has been dressed up for Children's Day, is super cute, not to mention the big pop-up, but it's definitely a must-have. Sugu asked curiously, aren't you with Andrea? While talking, I thought to myself, Andrea should be able to call herself a girl. Is it because the little Lolita group cannot be tainted? Before Veneto could speak, Kamichia said, Sister Andrea and Sister Kaio are together. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 624. Ko, Sugu muttered in confusion. Even though we only spent a short time together, we got to know the character of the little angel Kamichia. The energetic little Loli likes Veneto the most, and she also likes to seek death. This is probably a problem faced by little Lolita, who can't understand the occasion, can't distinguish the situation, and only half understand it. In short, Kamichia is definitely not the kind of thief who specializes in teasing adults. It was a name he had never heard of before. Sugu clearly remembered that he did not have this ship girl. The desserts were already served, and Antonio picked up his macaron and put it into his mouth. In Sugu's shocked expression, she started chewing, her mouth bulging like a hamster. When she found Sugu looking at her, she opened her mouth to speak. Suddenly the remains of the snack leaked from the corner of his mouth, and words that no one could understand rang out. Sister Ko is Sister Ko. Compared to everyone else, the little devil Aviel is much better. She is an honest child, although her body is not related to purity. She wanted to explain, but she didn't know how to explain. She hesitated and finally didn't speak. The little Lolita spoke one after another, but they couldn't explain why. Veneto replied, the second ship of the Andrea Doria class, the Caio Duilio, they all call her Sister Caio. In fact, Sugu didn't care too much. After all, there were too many ship girls in the world who didn't belong to him. He thought they were probably just Andrea's friends. But Veneto spoke, and he knew exactly who Caio was. To be honest, Sugu knew Caio quite well. Before the game was abandoned, the ship girl Caio was not yet installed in the game, but her satellite had already appeared, just waiting to land. Andrea's nickname is Ellie, and her blonde hair with twin ponytails is too similar to the heroine of a certain indescribable TV series. As for Caio, it should be said that the artist had a bad taste, and the vertical painting image was just right, so he was affectionately called the fatherly mountain-class battleship Shinna. In fact, Caio is Andrea's sister, but in the drama, Marina is Ellie's sister. Well, the Andrea Doria class in history was originally the Caio Duilio class, because Andrea Ali entered the water first, causing some records to name it the Andrea Doria class. After knowing the existence of Caio, he still didn't know why Andrea didn't come out together. Sugu asked curiously, you were working at the ship girl headquarters, and then they didn't come out. Do you have a mission? There is no mission, and there is no battle, they are just sleeping. Kamichia showed a triumphant expression, and she wanted to show off no matter who she was in front of. Hey, we just defeated the deep sea ship girl the day before yesterday. I won the MVP. After saying that, the little Loli's eyes blinked. Sugu knew exactly what she was thinking. This was a sign of wanting to be praised. He said, Kamichia is very powerful. Kamichia narrowed her eyes again, you haven't touched my head yet. After a pause, Sugu couldn't help but stretched out his hand. The little angel was indeed an angel. As a little Lolita, Bugalini knows a lot, such as sticking out her tongue to act cute and coquettishly making a coquettish voice. In short, she understands everything a vixen is good at. It is said that Aviel is a little devil. Her ship uniform is also dressed like a little devil or a succubus, and her personality is quite shy. Bugalini, on the other hand, was a perfect enchantress. She spread her fingers in front of her face, stuck out the tip of her tongue, and said, Caio has big breasts. Sister Veneto never goes out with her. Veneto held the coffee cup to his lips, definitely not to cover his chest with his elbow. Not to discuss the issue of painting style, the gap between the two-dimensional and three-dimensional is too big. But one thing is certain, whatever attributes everyone has in the game, they are the same here. Helena in the game has an incredible amount of breasts, and the same goes for Helena here. Bismarck has upturned hair like cat ears. It shouldn't appear under normal circumstances. It's just a game setting. It happens to be there here. It's not complied with. Obviously, one can roughly understand Caio's figure through the vertical painting. She is obviously just a girl, but she is also Andrea's sister. She looks similar but has a completely different body shape and has shameful breasts. Think about it, if we go out together, everyone is originally a well-matched opponent, but suddenly one person comes and stands out from the crowd, it will definitely not work. Thinking of this, Sugu was thoughtful. Veneto's expression became ugly. When it came to her breasts, she was particularly sensitive and said, "What are you thinking about? You deserve a beating. It's not what you think. Look at Aviel, I didn't say anything." Despite being a destroyer, Aviaire is completely different and quite interesting in the silly little Lolita. Sugu nodded, and at the same time Aviel saw her admiral's actions, and her face turned red with embarrassment. It's just that her character is weak. Nana was speechless and could only whisper to herself, "What? What does it have to do with me? I had no interest in Caio at first, but when everyone mentioned it, My interest grew. Sugu wanted to ask if there must be a reason why they didn't come out, but after looking at Veneto's cold expression, who could make fun of him in front of him, it didn't matter. South Dakota can also be dark, and the little fat guy's character is actually very loving. It's obvious that Veneto can't do it. Under normal circumstances, she is a majestic eldest sister and cannot be insulted. The upright Hay decided not to commit suicide if he wanted to eat the Italian cannon. Veneto finally explained a few words, and finally looked at Sugu. She spread her hands and said, "I'm done." "That's the reason anyway." "Yeah, I understand. Let me tell you, this is the reason for your expression." "Yeah, I believe it." Eyes wide open, Veneto gave up explaining. Out of the Admiral's professional nature, Sugu curiously asked, "Whose ship girl is Ko?" Due to regulations, the leader of each ship girl branch cannot have an admiral. However, in such a large branch, there are many admirals who have left the front line garrison, and there are too many ship girls who belong to the admirals. Kamichia shook her head and said, "Sister Ko has no admiral." Veneto seemed to understand what Sugu was thinking. "Shameful man," she sneered and sneered. Sugu didn't care. He continued to ask, "Andrea and Ko are good friends, right?" "Not friends, but sisters," Avil's weak voice. Ugalani said, "Ai bullies Ko all day long, and Ko doesn't know how to resist." Putting down the coffee cup in his hand, Veneto finally said everything and summed it up in one sentence: Andrea went on a mission to salvage his sister Kaio. Kaio has a weak character and does not dare to disobey Andrea at all. Now he is bullied all day long, but of course he also has a lot of love and care. Veneto looked at Sugu and was not polite. He waved to the waiter to bring more coffee and said, "You can be proud of yourself." Sugu originally thought that if there was a system, it would be a very difficult task to find the Italian little Lolita after he had worked hard for so long without any news. No, as long as it is completed, the reward will be huge. First of all, there are little Lolita with their own characteristics, and secondly, there are hidden rewards. After a pause, Sugu thought a little evilly, "It's Aili and Jenna again, so. Looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 625. Veneto, "Ha, eldest sister, why did you come back today?" The corners of Veneto's eyes twitched twice and he replied, "There's something a little bit wrong." "There is no way. A certain useless person has too many troubles and must be dealt with clearly." "He is." "I am the admiral." "Yeah. Ah. No need to show such a surprised expression. I told you a long time ago that we have an admiral. I thought it was just an excuse and I didn't want to bother to find a shield." "Our admiral, the real admiral." This was Kamichia's voice. As she spoke, she reached out and patted Sugu's waist. In fact, she wanted to pat Veneto on the shoulder like she usually did, but she couldn't reach it at all, so she had no choice but to lower her request. Sugu said, "Hello. When I entered the ship girl branch, I happened to meet Colorado, the leader here. He had short blonde hair and an explosive figure." They said hello and finally left with the other party's surprised expression. Sugu remembered that he also had a Colorado at home. After the transformation, the figure became more exaggerated in terms of the vertical painting, especially the big broken vertical painting. It would be a pity that Nahi didn't know where he was, but at least he had the Prince of Wales and Helena with him. After walking 2 steps, he turned back to look at Veneto. Blessed in mind, it would be better to say that they were already prepared, and the two people looked at each other. After a pause, Sugu quickly leaned a little closer to Sheng Sheng. Only with the maid beside him could he feel safe. Even if a hole is made in the sky, the head maid can hold it in front. He didn't dare to look at Veneto anymore, he just thought about his barren figure. With a boss like Colorado, his life must be very unsatisfactory. It's okay if the little loli doesn't care, but as long as she cares, she may be hit by a critical hit at any time. Consultant Sue, is Colorado strong? Fine. Better than you? No. Kamichia explained from the side, the eldest sister doesn't want to be the eldest sister. She doesn't even want to go out. Without saying a word, Veneto grabbed Kamichia's back collar, and the little angel immediately gave in. Sister, I was wrong. I originally wanted to take the gifts back to the governor's mansion and keep them in the hotel in the port city. Anyway, I have to go back there again when I return to the governor's mansion. Thinking about it, I don't know how long I will stay, and the world is not very peaceful, so I am still worried about running into problems when I stay in the hotel. Although it is not a very expensive gift, I put a lot of thought into choosing it, and finally decided to bring it. Carrying a lot of things, I was going to return home to put them down first. Andrea happened to be at home as well. Where do you live? Just in front. Looking forward, Sugu said, the villa looks good. Veneto always looked majestic, it's okay. Like Veneto, I also like Admiral, Carmichael is full of energy. When she returned home not long after, she was the most excited, shouting towards the house, Sister Andrea, Ellie. At the same time, Sugu looked around. The entire living room was not too big, and the decoration was all warm colors. There are soft fabric sofas, and the low coffee table is filled with books. Judging from the colorful covers, they are all comic books and fairy tale books. There are many toys scattered on the wooden floor, including puppets and building blocks. Putting down things in the living room, Kamichia ran around, and the little girl followed behind. Aviel didn't like to join in the fun, but he liked to follow his sister. They went to the kitchen first. Although there is a canteen in the branch, the food will definitely not be bad, but a kitchen is also necessary so that it can be fired at any time. It seemed that no one was found in the kitchen, so they went to the bathroom again. Sugu didn't know why they went to the bathroom to look. Then they went to the yard, and Sugu followed them this time. He was attracted by the grass and flower beds from the beginning. The flower bed was fenced with short sharp wooden boards and planted with many beautiful flowers. Kamichia picked a flower and gave it to Sugu. Admiral, here you go. Sugu just took it and saw Aviel's aggrieved expression, thinking that the flower garden in the yard was probably taken care of by this child. There are hangers in the middle of the yard, and clothes of all sizes, long and short, are hung on them. No, it should be said that clothes of all sizes, short and long, are hung on the hangers. I saw Ugolini pointing at a pair of bloomers and said, Kamichia, didn't you say before that as soon as the Admiral comes back, you will give him the pants? Kamichia was not shy, she showed a look of realization. Yes, I told you, Admiral, please take away my pants. It's something that even a lolicon has worn and hasn't been washed. Kamichia pretended to take off her pants by herself, and Aviel, who was following her closely, quickly stopped his sister's behavior. It was so shameful. Sister, you can't take it off. Why? Kamichia was still dissatisfied. This is the best gift for the Admiral. Aviel hesitated to speak, but Sugu quickly said that it was not necessary. He was not that perverted. Kamichia patted her sister's butt and said, then give Aviel to the Admiral. Sugu sighed and said, thank you very much. Aviel's face turned red and he hid behind his sister, and Carmichael was content. Antonio, the big Lolita, had a dull and confused expression as usual. She pulled Sugu's pants, motioned him to look at the hanger, and asked, Admiral, which pair of underwear do you think belongs to the eldest sister? Sugu shook his head, I don't guess. That one, the one without the bear. Fortunately, Veneto wasn't around. After leaving the yard, Sugu's only feeling was that this group of silly little Lolita, except for Aviel, had no moral integrity at all. There is no hope of saving any more and we can give up completely. Veneto has not killed these little Lolitas so far, which shows that she actually has a pretty good temper. Andrea was nowhere to be found in the whole house, and finally the little Loli ran to the beach with Sugu. When you get to the seaside, the terrain here is very high, and you need to walk down a long set of steps to get to the pier. Standing on the embankment, you can actually see the two girls standing below. Ellie, Sister Andrea is there, and Sister Ko. The distance was very close, Sugu saw it. Needless to say, the blonde with twin tails must be Ala Andrea, an older Lolita and a girl. She is really not tall, wearing a white shirt, a red skirt and red and white stockings. Although you can only see the profile of her face, she is very cute and has a round face. His eyes moved slightly and he immediately saw Ko being knocked on the head by Andrea. The long black hair hangs down behind her, not as black as ink and as smooth as silk compared to the royal oak. She doesn't dress as revealingly as in the game. After all, the vertical painting is just to cater to the players. Ship girls can be shy, and as an admiral, no man can bear to see his ship girl dressed like that outside, unless it's only in the garrison. In short, her clothes are similar to Andrea's, but the size of her chest is eye-catching, and her name is indeed well-deserved. At this time, at the dock, it was clear that from a historical perspective, there was no doubt that Andrea's World War I ship was also Veneto's predecessor. However, she regards Veneto as the boss and elder sister, and she is inferior to him due to lack of strength. She is also influenced by the little Loli, and she has a pure girlish nature. She doesn't care much about her seniors, but she cares a lot about her sister's identity. Andrea acted like a sister in front of Kaio and was very strict with her sister. I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. I've taught you many times, idiot. Although inferior to Veneto, Andrea is still very strong. Needless to say, Ko, who just woke up from the sea, is simply in a cute and new stage. The black-haired girl Ko whispered, I have worked hard. I have practiced it several times today. I like sleeping more than practicing, but actually I don't like sleeping too much. Anyway, everything is fine, but it is best to leave your sister's side. Otherwise, her sister would nag her if she didn't like it. She still remembered that she just got up in the morning without wearing underwear. She was discovered and was immediately lectured. Then all the obscene and vulgar words came out, and he even wanted to hit people. What, it's not like I'm not wearing any clothes? Andrea snorted and said, do you know how many times I used to practice at most a day? Have no idea. My brains have all grown to my chest. Ko felt a little aggrieved and said, you never said anything about breasts. Andrea snorted out of breath, and said, we practiced up to 18 times a day, and I was still the flagship, leading the team to victory again and again. How is that possible, unless there are only 2 people practicing? No, even if 2 people practice it, they can't do it that many times. Kaio still knows some things, let alone whether he is tired from high-intensity exercises. Unless 2 people are crushing each other during the exercise, it will take a lot of time to win. A standard 6-man fleet exercise would take more time each time. It's too late to practice so much. Andrea reached out and knocked Ko on the head again, until the latter touched his forehead. She said, am I still lying to you? No, although I still didn't believe it and didn't dare to say it. Ko also knew very well that his sister was very strong, terrifyingly strong. Andrea himself couldn't explain why he came, but he remembered that he had conducted many drills every day under the arrangement of the admiral. After thinking about it, she decided to ignore those troublesome things and continue to teach her sister a lesson, read more books, you have big breasts and no brains. Ko thought to himself that he really doesn't like reading and gets a headache when reading words, but sister, you are not much better. If you keep talking about breasts, you are just jealous. After thinking about it, she still didn't dare to speak, so she only nodded, well, sister, I will try my best. Andrea wanted to continue to teach her sister a lesson. The experience of being a sister was really great. Before she could speak, she suddenly heard shouting and something coming from the wind. Sister Andrea. Ellie. Dissatisfied with his nickname, Andrea wanted to see who dared to call him that. She saw the little Lolita first. Aviel was standing very well, and Camicia, Ugolini, and Antonio were all waving. Then he saw the man in long clothes and trousers, and his expression suddenly became astonished, as if he had seen a ghost. Ko had never seen her sister like this before. Naturally, she also saw everyone. Except for the little Lolita, there was a man she didn't know. She pushed Andrea and asked, "Who is he?" "A bastard." "Oh. Your admiral." Ko waved his hand. "I don't have an admiral. When I say it's your admiral, it's your admiral." "Oh." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De Rong Yan. Chapter 626. Many ship girls have natural tattoos, such as the tattooed anchor on Lafayette's arm, and many more have ship numbers on their bodies. If you look closely at the game illustration, you can see that there are actually two characters AV on Aviel's chest, which are the abbreviations of the ship's name. She has big breasts and a rather ambiguous tattoo of letters. She looks lusty, but the little devil is the purest and most honest. Her long red hair was draped snugly behind her. She was well dressed and sitting upright on the sofa. Ugolini took the lollipop, tapped it lightly with the tip of his tongue, then put it in his mouth and sucked. Just the act of eating a lollipop made her feel lustful. She is obviously just a little Lolita, but she is not inferior to the 4 reinforcement sisters, nor is she inferior to Missouri. In fact, there is no way to compare. The age gap is too much, but Sixby is completely outclassed. Sure enough, that sentence is correct. You are not afraid of not knowing the goods, but you are afraid of comparing goods. The big Lolita Antonio was sleeping on Sugu's lap, or to be precise, he should be lying on his stomach. Put your hands on your legs and rest your forehead on your hands, which is an unusual sleeping position. Camicia wore sunglasses and a small suit, a gangster look. If she goes out to collect protection money like this, she will definitely be able to get a lot of candies and cakes. She is too cute and no one can refuse her. At this time, she was sitting next to Sugu, reaching out to push Sugu. "Admiral, keep talking." Drinking coffee prepared by reputation, Sugu felt like he was being entangled. The original reason was just that Camicia was acting weird. When she saw Veneto, she put her hands on her hips and called her big sister. When Andrea passed by, she called Ellie. After all, Andrea didn't blow away Carmichael, but just hit the little angel on the head with a look of displeasure. Camicia rubbed her head and ran to the sofa, asking Sugu to blow her so that it wouldn't hurt. Sugu looked at her, rubbed her head for help, and then said in a funny way, "Sooner or later you will have to pay back if you come out to fool around." Usually Carmichael calls himself a gangster, and he doesn't say anything harsh or slanderous at all, which feels very embarrassing. Suddenly hearing such a classic sentence, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he immediately got attached to Sugu, wanting to hear more. Helpless, Sugu could only say one more thing: when you go out to fool around, you have to admit your mistakes, and you have to stand up when you are beaten. Just 2 words. In the eyes of little Loli, Sugu was immediately upgraded from admiral to big brother. In order to listen to the teachings and become a more qualified gangster, he got involved with Sugu. Sugu didn't want to say anything at first, but if he taught these little Lolita, the town guardhouse would probably be in trouble from now on. However, there is no resistance to the little Lolita, and it is completely real harm, so I can only start thinking hard. To be honest, he was not interested in young and dangerous movies at all in the past. Even if he was interested, he only watched them when he was a child. Fortunately, many words are circulated on the internet, and I still remember some classic sentences. Sugu pretended to be evil and said, when you come out to fool around, you have to be trustworthy. If you say you want to kill his whole family, you will kill his whole family. Oh, kill all the deep sea ship girls and kill their whole families. Kamichiya raised her hand. You can let Deep Sea North House and Fortress Princess go a little bit. It's better to fight Deep Sea Yamato. Kamichiya nodded heavily. The hopeful look in the little Lolita's eyes made people helpless. Sugu thought about it, pretended to be disgusted again, and sneered, the younger brother stabbed the elder brother with a knife, and no one who comes out is loyal. Kamichiya immediately expressed her position, I am the most loyal person, and Sister Veneto will always be my eldest sister. Sugu didn't believe Kamichiya, who had no integrity. It was obvious that no one believed it. Antonio was funny and Ugolini was shaking his head. In the end, the little angel could only look at his sister. The little devil Aviel hesitated to speak, but she did not dare to resist her sister's power. Finally, someone recognized her, and Kamichiya was satisfied. She pushed Sugu again and asked, brother, what else is there? Sugu bent down and put his arms on his legs, acting like a gangster. Then he stretched out his hand and knocked on his chest, and then pointed at Kamichiya, I have been out here for so long because of three things, being ruthless, being loyal, and having many brothers. Don't you want to go out? If you say this in front of Missouri, you will definitely be criticized, you are indeed very cruel. You have given out so many rings and you are not afraid of your body breaking down from exhaustion. There is no loyalty, at best there is only luck. There are many ship girls in the garrison, which is not a problem, but it all depends on the ship girls to fish the boats. Veneto has never been interested in these things. When she became the eldest sister, she just wore a yellow robe. There were only little Lolita in front of them, and they didn't make any excuses. They had learned expressions. Kamichiya counted the numbers and said, my sister is my woman, Antonio is my little brother, Ugolini is also my little brother, I am the most powerful. Finally, all the inventory in his head was drained out by the little Loli's endless demands, and Sugu leaned on the sofa. However, it was not over yet. Kamichiya did not let him go and said, I still want it. Sugu was so scared that he kept holding Kamichiya and rested his chin on the little angel's head. He looked around and said fiercely, Kamichiya is mine. Which of you agrees? Who opposes it? Kamichiya slowly opened her mouth, feeling extremely handsome. The Italian little Loli didn't have a fuel-saving lamp. She hugged Sugu's arm with both hands and was confused for a moment, brother, am I your woman? As soon as these words came out, Reputation gave him helpless looks, Veneto's face was full of disgust, Andrea's was contempt, Kaio was funny, except for Aviel who was shy, the little Lolita's eyes were full of eagerness to try. Perverted Lolicon. This was the voice coming from Andrea, who was curled up on a wicker chair. In fact, it was already a few days after I met Andrea. The meeting was nothing more than that, there wasn't much to note about it. After all, as a ship girl, there is no way she dares to really blow up the admiral, she can only be angry and glare at him. Although Kaio had already called the admiral under Andrea's simple and rude compulsion. 1 is 1, and 2 is 2. The distinction is very clear. The admiral's crime of disappearing without permission is a heinous crime that cannot be forgiven. Every time Andrea looks at Sugu-kwan, he gives a cold look and calls the admiral a bastard. He has no good impressions of the admiral at all. Girla look. In fact, Sugu knew very well that this was just a fake dislike of a real arrogance. He said, I'm really sorry for not controlling girls. What did you say? I'll blow you away. This sentence is probably Andrea's mantra, and Sugu has heard it many times in a short period of time. There are many ways to deal with tsundere. There is no need to go through the game, just a lot of observation, you can easily find Andrea's weaknesses. As long as Kaio was mentioned, Andrea could not refuse. Sugu picked up the chocolate on the coffee table, peeled it off, and threw it into his mouth. Sugu said, "You can't help me if you want to frame me. I'm just a loli. But you are not much better. As a sister, you have been bullying me. Sister Kao." Suddenly, Kao burst into tears. She looked at Sugu. "What a good admiral, my sister is so annoying." Andrea was very unhappy and said, "I am a good and considerate sister." Antonio, the big Lolita, got up from Sugu's arms and chuckled, "Ai Lee made me look up at the stars for Sister Kao to eat." Andrea defended, "I specially learned the craft from London, and the name is super cool. If she is not my good sister, I will not cook it for her. London's craftsmanship cannot be complimented." Sugu was really impressed by looking up at the stars, but he had also experienced looking up at the stars. Mainly Yuxian heard about the famous name of looking up at the stars, and also tried to make a game. Although the devilish nature of the dead fish head is still there and the taste is untouchable in London, the title of Supreme Chef is not in vain. Sugu complained, "Looking up at the stars, the pie is filled with dead fish heads." "Well, next time you don't put fish heads, but put lampreys. The indescribable delicacy must be very good. With a cylindrical mouth, no upper and lower jaws, like a sucker, and a circle of sharp teeth, lampreys are awesome." "What tone? It's good to look up at the stars." Andrea was dissatisfied and paused. It was rare that she didn't talk back and became thoughtful. "Lamprey, it's not like you can't give it a try. That's it, do it. Give Kaio a taste." "Haha, your level, canned herring, 5-nut mooncakes, apple steamed eggs, durian rice bowl." Andrea pointed at Sugu and shouted, "What, do you want to say that my cooking skills are not good?" For a moment, Kao became distressed. She knew her sister. After hearing what the admiral said, he would definitely be eager to prove himself, and then he would be the first victim. Although Veneto had already heard what happened, and there were no specific details yet, Advisor Su asked, "Speaking of which, how did Andrea meet Kaio?" Andrea raised her chin, "Let me tell you, I'm super strong." Sugu nodded, "Yeah, Ai Lee is super powerful. Veneto can't beat her, nor can she beat her in terms of reputation. This is a fact. I won't be happy if you think it's trivial to hit them." Sitting next to him, Kao wanted to remind his sister, "Did you really not hear it? He called you Ellie first, the one you usually hated the most. Although I praised you later, Veneto and Sheng Sheng were nearby and they heard it too." Kaio is very aware of Veneto's strength, which is slightly stronger than Andrea's. Of course, if good luck comes, Andrea can also beat Veneto, but at least the parameters of the ship's equipment are lagging behind. Kao looked at the smiling reputation again, and the head maid reminded her several times. Compared to her sister, she really likes the head maid and is completely obsessed with her. He really knows how to take care of people and won't cook unpalatable meals. The snacks are especially delicious. It's not like my sister, even if she peels an apple, it will only turn into a polyhedron if it is originally round. The head maid, a perfect existence. Not paying attention to Kao's wink, Andrea was full of pride and said, "A deep-sea battleship appeared, and no one could deal with it. In the end, it was left to me, Andrea. The enemy was easily eliminated, and then, I saw her, stupidly standing still on the sea surface, and I brought her back. There is no such thing as a fool." Kaio was still worried just now, but he became dissatisfied. "You don't have any, otherwise you'd be confused. Andrea likes to bully her sister, and Andrea showed it vividly at this moment. I just brought you back, and you are not very polite in speaking, are you?" Kaio had no way to refute. Ship girls are born with a lot of knowledge and don't need to learn common sense at all. Many people are even born with great skills, such as Fuzang and Yuxian's cooking skills, which are innate talents. However, this knowledge still needs to be applied and proficient, especially the language. It just means that you will be able to adapt quickly. Andrea took advantage of the victory and said, I just woke up, and the clothes I'm wearing are so erotic, and everything below my breasts is exposed. I'm going to join the gendarmerie. Sugu thought to himself, you are like that in the game, the gendarmerie doesn't care about so many things. No, you just don't have breasts, that's why it doesn't matter. The strength is still poor. I don't know anything, and I can't teach you anything, Andrea was still saying. For example, many parents like to tell embarrassing things about their children. This is not really annoying, but they just like to make fun of them. Sugu still knew it very well, having heard everyone say it. If any outsiders want to bully the weak KO, they should all be pushed back. When I saw delicious food outside, I bought them all and brought them to KO. She looked exactly like a sister. Before meeting my sister, no one knew she actually had such a side. However, it was very unpleasant for the child to talk about embarrassing things all the time, and KO was also angry. She thought about it and happened to see a black cat jump into the living room. In fact, it should be said that it is an ownerless black cat. It has a little food from this house and a little food from that house. It has grown up eating food from hundreds of families. However, the nominal owner is still Veneto, and its name is Fishcake. Kaio picked up the black cat and threw it to Andrea. The fake Fishcake lay on Andrea's body. The girl's body immediately became stiff. She seemed to be quite afraid of cats. Kaio, what are you doing? Hurry up and take him away. I'm going to hit someone. Kaio hummed, and Andrea could only look at Sugu and said, take it away. Rather than adding insult to injury, as it was a rare opportunity to develop a good impression, Sugu grabbed the flesh on the back of the black cat's neck and lifted it up. But Andrea crossed the river and burned the bridge, she said, I didn't ask you to help me, I'm just being naive. Andrea recovered, and seeing this, Kaio turned and ran away. Andrea got up and chased after him. Until Andrea walked away, Sugu was holding the black cat. He was not as honest as Ginger or Fish Cakes, but at this moment he was quietly being carried around by others. He suddenly remembered a joke. Cat's diary. Monday, I was kidnapped today. Faced with the coercion, I had no choice but to swallow my anger and lie there while he continued to touch me. Tuesday, the days of suffering have no end in sight. When will I be able to get rid of this humiliation? Wednesday, this bitch didn't even touch me when she got home because she was too tired from work. He is dead. In fact, before going out, Andrea suddenly turned around, hesitated, and said, thank you. Sugu thought to himself that Andrea was not too arrogant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 627. Sugu was originally sitting by the bush, while Sheng Sheng stood beside him. The two people were talking when they suddenly heard a weak voice nearby. Admiral, why are you here? Sugu turned around and saw Kao, whose gentle and frail temperament was completely different from Andrea's. At this time, the black-haired girl was bent over, with her hands on her knees, panting. He replied, I walked around and happened to sit down and rest here. Have you seen your sister? Did not see. Kao looked relaxed. Sugu asked curiously, are you looking for Andrea? Don't look for her. Sister, she is chasing me. She is forcing me to study again. I don't want to study. Kao was anxious to leave. If you don't tell the Admiral, I have to leave, otherwise I will be caught by my sister, and I will leave again. It's time to learn. Sugu said, the more you run, the easier it is to be discovered, and the more mistakes you make, the more mistakes you make. Ah. Thinking about it, it seems to be the same reason, Ko did not continue running. She carefully looked around, but did not see her sister chasing after her. She sat down next to Sugu and let her body hide behind the bushes. Sugu also knew that Andrea often forced Ko to study, just like parents forcing their children to study, make up extra classes and attend interest classes. He said, "I remember your sister doesn't like studying either." Ko complained, "Yes, she doesn't study herself, she just forces me to study." Sugu slightly blackmailed Andrea, and said, "Putting things that I can't do on my sister is just for your own good." After all, Sugu also knew that there was a reason for many parents to force their children to study. None of the children like to read, so they cannot be allowed to do whatever they want, otherwise in the future, those who are left behind will still suffer the consequences of being children. It's just that everything needs to be mastered. As for ship girls, just like people from wealthy families, they can teach their children art. To a certain extent, the ship girl was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She has great strength and does not need to fight too hard. That's right, Ko nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. My sister is really too strict. She asks me to practice with her every day. I can't beat her at all, and she says I'm stupid. She also likes to ask me to read books, including classics. I feel like my head is getting bigger. I also need to learn cooking skills, but now I only know how to peel potatoes. Cute and weak, Ko is really not a very smart girl. As the admiral, Sugu said, "It's almost ready." Yeah, Ko felt the same way. In fact, he had already noticed reputation. Ko suddenly asked out of curiosity, "Every time I see the admiral, sister, reputation is always next to you." Ko has no feelings about joining the garrison, and he will listen to his sister's arrangements anyway. However, she has a good impression of the head maid. She is beautiful and powerful, can do all kinds of housework, and is good at taking care of people. I thought to myself, it's not like Veneto looked at me like a class enemy, or the kind of person who owed a lot of money and didn't pay back. Although I bring gifts for myself every time I go out, I don't like taking myself out. She's not like her elder sister, who likes to bully others and force her to study, even though it's kind to herself. As long as there are no arrangements, the head maid will be at your side at any time. Sugu also mentioned that for reputation, you can do things you like. The head maid replied that following the admiral was not only a responsibility, but also her favorite thing. Just one sentence makes people's whole heart intoxicated. Sugu smiled, "Because she is my head maid. I heard that sister reputation is a wedding ship." "Right. Why do you want to be the head maid on a wedding ship?" Ko was a little confused. Sugu couldn't give a good answer to this question. He looked at Sheng Sheng and said, "You should ask her." Reputation smiled and said, "Responsibility is also a hobby. He is my master, admiral, husband, and everything. I also like reputation the most." Little stars appeared in Ko's eyes, and she said, "So loving." Sugu smiled. Now that he has joined the garrison, he seems to have a very gentle feeling towards the admiral. He cautiously looked around again, but he didn't find his sister yet. He was relieved. Ko curiously asked, "I haven't been to the town hall yet. How is it there?" "In the east, far away from here, there is a not-so-big garrison built on the mountainside." Sugu told everything about the governor's mansion, how big it was, what buildings it had, and what facilities it had. "Although it is not very big, it will lack nothing but be better than here." Then I also talked about the weather, geographical location, and surrounding environment. There are clean beaches, clean seawater, convenient transportation, and a very good garrison. In short, Wangpo sells melons and boasts about herself. I heard that there are many sisters in the town hall. Naturally, Ko asked his sister what the governor's mansion looked like, but her sister forced people to study and didn't say anything. And my sister is too subjective, so I want to hear what the admiral has to say. Sugu said, you will definitely like it. We are all very good people. Lexington is the secretaryship. She is the gentlest and kindest. Everyone says she is like an angel. She is also very powerful and can control the ship. There are few people who can match the level of carrier. There is also Tirpitz, everyone calls her Bazai. She is a homebody who likes to stay in her room every day. She has no temper, and it doesn't matter even if you pinch her face. Ko waved his hand quickly, I won't pinch her face. Xiaozai, you must have never seen the young girl version of Tirpitz. You can pinch her face. Like Veneto. Do you also admit that Veneto is a lowly and a young girl? Ko doesn't know black people. Before she could blush and want to explain, Sugu spoke up, she's not a fake Lolita like Veneto. Xiaozai is a real Lolita. She likes to play around and read comics. He has a naughty personality. He is currently troubled and worried that he will become a nerd when he grows up. He nodded, imagining what the little house would look like, it must be very cute. Feeling deeply poisoned, Ko curiously asked, is London in the townhouse? Sugu had a reassuring expression on his face, and said, the heavy cruiser London's cooking skills are indeed poor. But you can rest assured that our garrison is currently in charge of the kitchen of the light cruiser Euxian. The supreme cook is in charge of the legendary kitchen utensils. Even just cabbage can be cooked deliciously. Anyway, she can cook any dish well. You must have heard that Chinese food is the best in the world. Kaio struggled a little and said, our Italian food is also very good, but my sister is not good at it at all. The dishes she cooks are all weird. I agree with both of these points. The Italian food is not bad. I traveled around a land that once belonged to Italy with its reputation for a long time, and the impression is very good. Andrea's cooking skills have been here for several days. The girl is just arrogant and has cooked well once. The taste is so unbearable that I force people to eat it. His feet were treading on the ground in boredom, and Ko suddenly said, the admiral seems to know a lot. Why do you say so? I see you telling Karmicha and the others stories. There is nothing in the world that you don't understand. Only people who are familiar with him would brag casually. Sugu restrained himself a little, and said, it's average, I just know a little bit about it. No matter what it is, as long as it's a deeper question, I don't know. But if I call I know a little bit about single-phase electricity, three-phase electricity, direct current, alternating current, well, I'm also good at CAD, but it's a pity that it's of no use anymore. Ko said distressedly, I don't understand anything. No, isn't the admiral learning from the admiral? Learned it before becoming an admiral. Ko looked at the sea in the distance. She was curious about everything about the admiral and the townhouse. Can the admiral know how to surf? Know a little. The townhouse is close to the beach, so I must have surfed there. It's just that Sugu doesn't have much athletic talent, and his level so far is unsatisfactory. In front of Tennessee and California, which are good at sports, it makes people feel ashamed. Tennessee girl, California has a great belly, hugged her many times. Ko doesn't seem to be good at it. He can't read, fight, or cook. He hugged his face with his hands. Before Sugu could speak, a voice suddenly sounded from beside him, Ko, you are very good at running away. Stunned for a moment, Ko turned around and immediately saw Andrea smiling sinisterly. Only then did she think of running away, but she couldn't get away anymore and Andrea caught her. Admiral, save me. Ko looked at Sugu, and in a short period of time, he had a lot of favorable impressions. Without disappointing Ko, Sugu said, Andrea, you're almost ready. Andrea turned back and glared at Sugu. She didn't buy it and said, it's not good. Seeing Ko's pitiful expression, Sugu said, "Ko is a ship girl, there is no need to be so forced to study." Andrea held Ko's wrist tightly and replied, "Even a ship girl has to study and train. I have struggled like this before, practicing every day. There are indeed many exercises in the game." Sugu said, "You didn't study every day before. It's impossible not to study, so Ko needs to read more every day. The reason is very good. But you don't read yourself." "I don't read, but Ko wants to." Andrea kept her hands on her hips and acted righteously from the beginning to the end. Sugu had no choice at all. Women are just so unreasonable. After some arguments, Andrea became uneasy. She asked Sugu, "Why are you protecting Ko like this?" The cute girl couldn't refuse with her pitiful eyes. It was still Jenna. Even the second ship was the eldest daughter. Sugu said, "No one is happy if they are forced to study every day." Andrea suddenly understood. She snorted softly and said, "I know, you must be planning a date." "I tell you no." Ko explained from the side, "The Admiral is a good person and will not have any bad thoughts towards Ko." "What do you know?" Andrea revealed the truth. "Do you know how many wedding ships he has?" "I know Prestige Sister is a wedding ship." Andrea pouted, "Humph, Ko, let me tell you. He has 8 marriage ships, a total of 8. You think he is a good person, but he is actually trying to set your sights, otherwise there would be so many marriages. Where did the ship come from?" Andrea saw Sugu's expression of hesitation and said, "What do you want to say, don't you?" He couldn't lie. He took a deep breath and said, "You are wrong. Now I have 10 wedding ships. Helena and Akaga didn't tell you there are many more waiting for me. Let's not talk about them, otherwise it will be really scary." Suddenly, Ko looked like her faith had collapsed. She originally thought that the Admiral and Reputation had such a good relationship that they must love each other the most. There are actually so many women, none of whom have any good impressions. Feeling a little guilty, Sugu explained, "Ko, don't listen to your sister's nonsense, I have a reason." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 628. After taking a shower, Andrea's beautiful blonde hair was not tied up but just draped behind her back. Wearing white pajamas, she is supervising her sister Ko's study, and she does not miss it at night. The warm yellow light of the desk lamp shone on the desk. Ko bit the tip of his pen and looked at the dense letters in the book. He felt that his head was swollen and about to explode. "I really want to sleep, but my sister is beside me and watching eagerly." At this moment, seeing her sister's head pecked again and again, Andrea stretched out her hand. Feeling like he was hit on the head, Ko woke up with a start. Andrea picked up the alarm clock on the desk, looked at the hour and minute hands, and said, "It's still so early, you have no energy." Pushing everything forward, Ko lay weakly on the table and said, "What can I do? I'm just sleepy anyway." Andrea curled her lips and said, "I saw you and the Admiral chatting very happily this morning. You two have only known each other for a few days. When did you become so familiar and have you become energetic?" It was possible to put it off for a while, until late at night and fall asleep. Ko explained, "It was daytime at that time, so I would definitely be energetic during the day. But I saw you guys together at night." Andrea smiled evilly. She knew everything that happened around the Admiral. The Admiral was walking outside with his Reputation, and his sister quietly passed by. She stood behind and watched for a long time. Speechless and struggling to his death, Ko said, "We are just taking a walk. He is my Admiral, and I have a famous sister beside me. Can't we just take a walk?" Andrea took an apple from the fruit plate prepared for Ko at the desk, wiped it with his sleeve and started to bite it. After taking a bite, she looked at the apple and bit out a heart shape. She felt happy for a moment and asked, "Ko, I remind you not to lie to your sister." What are you talking about during your walk? Nothing was said. Ko said this, and she thought to herself that she really didn't want to study anymore, so she could only ask the admiral for any good ideas. It's a pity that there are no good solutions. I only heard words such as otherwise the princes and generals will have their own kind and otherwise there will be non-violence and non-cooperation. To be honest, I didn't quite understand the meaning of these two sentences at first. After listening to the explanation, I thought carefully about whether I should really study hard. Andrea saw Ko's guilty conscience and knew that nothing good would happen, but her sister would definitely not say it clearly. She hummed twice and teased, I told you to be careful about him, he must have some evil thoughts about you. No, you go to him at night, I can tell, you are just being affectionate. Well, I've never seen a woman as proactive as you. Ko looked aggrieved and said, no way, I have no feelings for him. Andrea said contemptuously, it's good if you don't have feelings for him. After a good conversation at noon, Ko actually had a lot of affection for Sugu. Although later I heard that there were many wedding ships, which shocked everyone. However, Sugu also explained it well, and Guang Weizheng's image was still preserved. Of course, the main reason is that as the sister, Andrea's behavior is really bad. In comparison, those small things are insignificant, and as a ship girl, she doesn't take them so seriously. Ko's hands hung weakly, and he put his face on the desk. He looked at his sister and asked curiously, my sister is so cruel to him. What did the admiral do before? As a girl, Ko is also very gossipy. And there is no way to replace the admiral. What kind of person he is very important. The more you know about the admiral, the better. He has done a lot of bad things. Andrea placed the apple in her hand. What's the matter? Everyone in the garrison remembered the things the admiral had done, and Andrea was certainly no exception. Even though it was a long time ago, memories still came flooding back. She said, he liked to poke Helena's breasts, and he especially liked to watch the young girl's submarine explode, like an archer fish. It seems pretty bad. He also likes to call me daughter. I want to beat him to death. He also calls me Ellie. This name makes me feel full of malice. Ha, Xiamai, he actually calls me heavy artillery Andrea. I am a battleship, super powerful. Battleship. Ko muttered that his sister had very little food in terms of supplies, so it could be said that she had heavy artillery. But in terms of combat effectiveness, it is completely unmatched by heavy artillery. In this case, it must be because of her short stature and small breasts. Before she could finish thinking, she was hit by Andrea, so she stretched out her hand to rub her head. Sister, you have another attack. I hit someone if I disagreed. Andrea said, what are you thinking about? I feel like you are thinking about something very bad. I am a heavy artillery, and you are my sister. Your ship equipment parameters are the same as mine, and you are also a heavy artillery. My nickname is Ellie. He has already said that I have a younger sister, Ko, who will be named Jina when she joins the garrison. Marina, it seems like the name is pretty nice too. You, Andrea wanted to poke her sister's forehead with her finger, but gave up. Sister, continue talking. Ko's curiosity has not yet been satisfied. Throwing the leftover apple core into the trash can, Andrea sat on the edge of the bed and said, the bastard admiral left the town hall without authorization. Everyone has been looking for him for a long time but can't find him. How can you say there is one? I wish I could blow such a person away. There must be a reason. Ko chose to believe that Sugu must be in trouble. Being arrogant in front of Sugu was much better in front of her sister. Andrea was dissatisfied and said, if you have anything to leave, you can tell us. He often couldn't see people in the past, and we didn't have much what to say, just stay silently at the town guard mansion. I didn't leave anything behind, and I didn't say when I would come back. I simply disappeared and can't be found anywhere. Maybe there is no way to explain it. Suddenly I was hit by a car, suddenly kidnapped, suddenly something like that. Andrea muttered, then he came back and didn't give a good explanation. He just gave a perfunctory explanation. Regarding the past, Suguhen had no good way to explain it, so he could only deal with it. After all, the game was too ridiculous. Then it was just using the reason explained to Xiaozai at the beginning to mean that he couldn't remember many things. However, to the ship girl, the admiral could clearly remember many things, so there was no sign of any amnesia. Even though it can be seen, it is very difficult to not mention the past at all. Although I can understand it, I still feel resentful. Although the resentment is only for a moment, it is enough to be able to feel the admiral's heart and want to take good care of everyone. After hearing what his sister said a lot, Ko said, if the admiral is so bad, otherwise my sister might as well not recognize him as admiral. I heard everyone say that as a ship girl, it doesn't matter if she doesn't have an admiral. What do you know? What do they know? Colorado and the logistics team in Nizhino don't have an admiral. How can they know so much? They think they are righteous. Well, how can a ship girl leave the admiral so easily? And he can still do it? Never put everyone in danger. It has been so long and no one has sunk. Andrea was sleeping on the bed in a big letter shape, and then she hooked a pillow with her fingers and hugged her tightly. She fell into memories and said faintly, what he likes to do is to arrange everyone on the secretary ship to get along day and night. Wait until everyone likes him, so if he doesn't give the ring, he immediately removes it and replaces it with someone else. Haha, you must not know that Veneto likes him. He obviously has a lot of rings, and he is reluctant to give them to everyone after he leaves. Suddenly, Ko sat up from his helpless state and said, I remembered that I found a small box in the drawer of the cabinet before, and there was a ring in it. It was hidden very secretly, in the deepest part of the drawer, and I accidentally found it in the room. In fact, it was just boring rummaging. Seeing the beautiful locket, I reached out to open it and found a brilliant diamond ring. This kind of diamond ring has a very important meaning, and I generally don't buy it randomly, and my sister is not a widow. I was full of curiosity, but I didn't dare to ask anything. I guessed it must be something very private. I couldn't suppress my curiosity, hoping to find some clues. I had heard about the former town guard house, but no one was willing to mention it or dare to ask more questions. My sister doesn't write a diary, and she doesn't dare to peek into it if she writes it. It's rude and she's afraid of being beaten. In the end, I could only look for photos, and they were all landscapes, such as large blue tulips, tall windmills, lonely lighthouses, etc. There are very few group photos. There are only a few group photos with human beings involved. There are only a few large group photos of many people together. There is no one important to my sister at all. So that's it, this is the ring of oath from the admiral. The person left, but the ring stayed. My sister took one away. Still thinking about the heinous deeds of the admiral, Andrea heard her sister Ko's words, and only now did she think that the biggest secret had been discovered, so should she kill him and silence him? Ko obviously didn't notice her sister's appearance, and she said to herself, everyone says you are a tsundere. Well, you keep saying that you hate the admiral the most, and you must blow him away. The day he came over, your eyes were red. In fact, you don't hate him at all, you must like him. Only now have I discovered this problem. Ko is indeed not a smart girl. Andrea yelled, Ko, don't talk nonsense. I don't like him at all, so I won't like him. Ko snickered, the ring is here. Sister, you must like him, otherwise what would you do with the ring? Just playing with it? It was rare for Ko to see her sister panicking. She smiled and said, you must be jealous if you keep talking about me. You like the admiral, and I want to tell the admiral. Andrea defended her, but it was of no use. Kaio didn't believe it at all. As a younger sister, I like the topic of my sister's love the most. She even left the desk and wanted to go to the drawer to dig out the ring. However, before Kaio could take 2 steps, Andrea saw a dangerous expression on his face. She grabbed her sister's arm like lightning, then threw her onto the bed, then got on top and moved her hands up and down. Kaio wouldn't threaten at all, so she immediately gave in. "Sister, I was wrong. You are very powerful. You secretly rummaged through my things." Kaio didn't even dare to struggle. "I saw it accidentally. I didn't steal the ring." "Well, I know, sister definitely won't. I don't like the Admiral." Kaio really doesn't have a strong will, so she replied, "The bastard Admiral is not worth liking." Andrea hit her sister, and in Kaio's aggrieved eyes, she said, "You are not allowed to say that, bastard Admiral. I'm sorry, I was wrong, can you let me go?" "No." Kaio is pitiful. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 629. Sitting beside the sofa, Sugu was telling a story to the little Loli. Little Lolita's favorite stories are very different from others, and Sugu's stories are also different from usual. Washington got an axe, which was brand new and extremely sharp. She saw a cherry tree by the garden, swaying in the breeze, as if waving to her. So she ran over happily, raised the axe and chopped down the cherry tree. After her sister North Carolina came home, she was very angry when she saw the cherry tree that had been cut down. Washington was very angry when she saw her sister. She walked over and raised her axe and said, "Sister, I cut down the cherry tree." North Carolina saw that Washington actually cut down the cherry tree. After admitting it, she immediately took out her Indian tomahawk and struck Washington, saying, "Since you dare to chop down my cherry tree, then try my axe." Washington raised his hand to block, and the two of them immediately fought together. This battle lasted for a whole day and night, and the sky was dark. In the end, North Carolina missed a move and was chopped down to the ground by Washington with an axe. Washington said, "Sister, your time has passed, and this piece of Pacific Ocean should still be given to young men." North Carolina looked at Washington's back and asked, "When did you become so strong?" Washington said lightly, "The cherry tree in the garden has a trunk as small as a wrist and wants to chop it, but there is a tree in his eyes but nothing in his heart." Tree. When he first entered the Pacific, Washington met his destined rival, South Dakota. South Dakota was good at using a pair of diamond bracelets. When he saw Washington, he said, "It's me, South Dakota. There is only one South Dakota in Hawaii." Washington said, "The fortune teller said that I am a general who will succeed. 10,000 bones are withered, but I don't agree. I think it's up to us to decide whether those who come out to hang out are alive or dead." Washington and South Dakota were fighting. They were fighting inextricably, and suddenly there was applause. The two people looked over and saw a tall blonde woman standing there, holding her fists and saying, "What a falling cherry axe, Washington, what a defense of the Iron Curtain, South Dakota." Washington asked, "Who are you?" The blonde woman said, "I am Enterprise." Washington said, "What are you stopping us from?" Enterprise said, "We are all daughters of the United States. What grudges can't be let go of? Don't you know that Akaga next door led people to smash our Pearl Harbor? Many people have suffered misfortune, California, West Virginia. I didn't have a choice before, but now I want to be a good person." Since then, Washington has joined the American gang, and the Enterprise is her eldest lady. Hai is attacking South Dakota. South Dakota is stretched thin and is about to be defeated. Washington has already moved behind Hai. Kamichia listened with great interest, but when the story finally came to an end, in fact it was just that Sugu Wensi was exhausted, that is, Kevin, and there was no way to continue talking. Finally, Sugu picked up the large cup of Coke placed on the coffee table and drank it in one gulp. He ended, "I know what will happen next. Please listen to the explanation next time." Just when she heard that the wonderful place was gone, there were no more eunuchs, and Karmicha was not willing to give up. She quickly pushed Sugu and begged, "Brother, my favorite admiral, please, please continue, okay?" Sugu could never refuse the little Lolita's request. However, this is not a question of attitude whether you want to do it or not, but a question of ability whether you know how to do it. Even though the longing and hopeful look in the little Loli's eyes made people feel pity, Sugu could only wave his hands and said casually, "I have no choice. The skills are cooling down and I need Krypton gold." The little Lolita group rarely separates, and no one can refuse the Admiral's story. Kamichia is there, and of course Ugalani is too. The story is so interesting that I want to continue listening to it. She knew a lot. She was lying on the sofa, holding her face and shaking her legs, and asked, "Admiral, if you want to pay for it, will a kiss be enough to cool down your skills? You're such a perverted little devil, it's hard for people to deal with." Sugukeo wanted to agree, but there was nothing he could do about it, so he could only say, "Not enough." If there were enough Krypton gold, even if the card was blocked, he would have to forcefully pass the test, although the quality of the article might be greatly reduced. With old god Sugu present, the little Lolita began to bite their ears, and then ran away one after another. The Italian little Loli wanted to hear gangster stories. Since it was a gangster, she considered that her elder brother, the Prince of Wales, would take Rodney and the Royal Ark to block Bismarck. "I just suddenly thought of the American gangs, they are still relatively powerful, so I made some magic changes, and then successfully attracted the Italian little Lolita." Sugu has always been a good person and would not do anything like digging holes but not filling them. He just got stuck, so there was nothing he could do. Anyway, after sending all the little Loli away, he was finally able to take a good rest. Just squinting his eyes a little, Sugu found that Ko was hesitant to speak when he saw him. "What does Ko want to say to me?" Looking to the side, the girl saw her sister staring at her eagerly. She thought about being pinned down on the bed and beaten severely yesterday. Although she wouldn't be hurt, she was so unhappy that she never dared to do it again. She shook her head quickly and said, "It's nothing." Sugu loves Ko very much. After all, the girl is not like Veneto, who likes to pretend to be a majestic eldest sister, nor is she like Andrea, who is extremely arrogant. She is weak, cute, and obedient, and will look at you with longing eyes. She is especially tall and has a good figure, which makes her stand out from the crowd. As the perfect younger sister, it's great to have such a girl as my ship girl. Sugu glared at Andrea. "Ellie, look at you, all you do is scare your sister every day. I thought that if I dared to mention that matter again, I would be beaten and I would not care if I cried." Andrea didn't realize it, shook her head and said, "I am a good sister." Sugu accused, "Ko obviously doesn't want to study, so he forces people to study. It's not that he doesn't study, it just means that he must pay attention to the balance between work and rest. You can rest after reading a book, and it's the same if you walk around and feel irritable. Guard the mansion. There are classes on the destroyer, and every class has breaks. You will just force Ko to study and study, what the hell?" The girl has already mentioned it many times with grievances, reporting someone with her real name, no breasts, no butt, no figure, not Veneto. Ko likes to read now. Andrea looked like you know what. Sugu looked at Ko. The girl lowered her head and said nothing. It wasn't that he acquiesced, it was obvious that he didn't like it. He just succumbed to the power and iron fist from his sister. He said, "People like you can't solve the problem, so then solve the problem. It's too rough. Beat my sister." After a while, my sister gave in, and the matter was resolved. Andrea insisted on her opinion without comment. My sister, you don't need to take care of her. My ship girl, I can take care of it however I want, and you and I can take care of it too. Official orders will be obeyed absolutely. No matter how dangerous the mission is, it doesn't matter. A narrow escape from death will still lead to a life of swords and fire. But it was obvious that this was just a joke. Andrea could see this, and she transformed into a strong command. Then you order me and see if I listen to you. I am Andrea. Sugu thought for a while, then smiled and said, then my order is to share a table with me for dinner tonight. What? Shouted Andrea, his expression became proud again, and he clasped his fingers and counted, I don't want to eat with you, a bastard, I want to eat with Caio, Veneto, Reputation, Camiche. Let's eat together with Aviel, Antonio, and Ogalani. He didn't expect that his daughter would become so smart. He was so relieved that Sugu said, it's a pity that Reputation will definitely stay with me. Andrea looked at the quiet Reputation next to her. Unless the maid took the initiative to talk to her, she didn't like to interrupt in ordinary chats. She preferred to listen silently, or prepare fruit plates, drinks, clean, etc. Sister Reputation, you won't be with him. Nehi Shengsheng is not someone who likes to joke around. She smiled, I listen to the master. Andrea's pride suddenly stopped and she said, Sister Shengsheng, I'm joking, please cooperate. She became indignant again and pointed her finger at Sugu, you bastard admiral, feed Sister Renren the ecstasy soup. Yes, I am. You are. After being stunned for a moment, Sugu said, it seems like I really am. Andrea picked up the pillow behind her and threw it at Sugu, then made a face and ran away to the kitchen, not knowing what to do. Seeing Andrea leave, Ko quickly sat down next to Sugu. In fact, she couldn't bear it anymore. Originally, the night was just about giving in. She said, Admiral, sister is very beautiful. It's very beautiful, but it's a pity that it's so small. Ko seemed to be telling a secret, let me tell you secretly, my sister is actually a tsundere. I know. The Admiral actually knows that. You girl is too pure. You don't know how many tricks there are in this world. Sugu took a deep breath and said, of course. She said she hates being tsundere, but she actually likes her very much. Before Ko could say anything, Andrea suddenly appeared behind her and strangled her neck. I knew you would say that. I went to the kitchen and ran back quietly, and it was true. Sister has been plotting against me. Right. I haven't said anything yet. Sugu naturally didn't know what happened to the sisters. He asked, what are you doing? Andrea smiled and said, Ko has admired you for a long time, she likes you very much. Of course, Sugu would not believe in dating and like him. Even if the ship girl likes the Admiral easily, there is no reason to say so quickly. Editor, continue to make up. Andrea smiled and lifted up Ko's clothes and touched it. Admiral, look, your belly is so flat, there is white lace, and your breasts are so big. Faced with this situation, no matter how weak he is, he will still resist. Ko said, you haven't worn anything yet. With the sudden critical attack, Andrea became fierce in an instant and said, Ko, I have decided to tie you up with a ribbon as a gift. Bastard Admiral, I will reluctantly give it to you. Sugu said with a smile, okay. Shameless, you bastard. Hey, Admiral, why are you like this? Ko said in a soft and weak voice. Andrea just said not to practice fake tricks and waited for a long time without seeing the gift, but the little angel Kamichia kept her promise. Sugu looked into the distance by the window, not to protect his eyesight, but just out of boredom. Kamichia tiptoed behind him and tugged at the hem of his clothes. Brother, the Krypton gold has been prepared for you. What kind of money? Sugu originally just said it casually, but he didn't remember much of what he said. Kamichia said, if a kiss is not enough, this one will surely satisfy you. What? Come here with me. Sugu followed Kamichia upstairs, walked through the corridor, and then came to the little Loli's room. The room was decorated in pink, and sitting beside the bed was the little devil Aviel with a face full of grievances and tears in his eyes. She was wearing a revealing stroppy bikini that was obviously from Veneto, and the letters AV could also be seen on the chest. Kamichia, what are you doing? Brother, this is a woman prepared for you, please enjoy it. Ugolini was still lying on the bed, holding her cheek with the back of her hand, and the big Lolita Antonio was beside her very happy. Although I have already known that these little Lolita are unreliable, and I also know that Kamichia is particularly unruly and likes to bully her younger sister, but to actually do it to this extent, well, it doesn't seem to be too much. Things, Bikini Veneto is wearing, AVL has nothing. However, Sugu still wanted to say, Kamichia, are you happy with bullying your sister all day long and forcing you to wear a swimsuit? Thinking about the moral integrity of little angels, perhaps it should be said that little angels have no moral integrity. Even if they give out their underwear, it doesn't matter at all. Then they will definitely say, it doesn't matter, I will show it to you now, and I will be very happy. The little angel was completely unconscious and asked, Brother, what's the story? She held the little devil's hand and refused to let him go. Aviel did not dare to resist her sister at all, and was quite shy. Sugu sighed helplessly, and suddenly Veneto appeared at the door. She saw Sugu first, then Aviel, and then her own swimsuit, and her face turned livid. Beside the sofa, Sugu lowered his head, Kamichia held his head, Aviel looked aggrieved, and Veneto said, Admiral, you. I did nothing. I am innocent and my reputation bears witness. After Shen Shen nodded, Veneto said, Okay, let's believe you for now. What do you want from me? Sugu could tell. It's nothing, just saying that we can pack up and get ready to leave. All the work has been handed over, Veneto said, she has been busy with this matter these days. In fact, I haven't been here for many days yet, so quickly. Neither Veneto nor Andrea is responsible for any important positions. Veneto was about to leave, and the huge ship girl headquarters quickly found someone to support him. In short, everyone will continue to move on without leaving a huge organization, at most it will not be so smooth. Sugu was also thinking that it was time to go back. These silly little Lolita really needed discipline, so they should be left to Helena to train them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 630. We still have to return to the port city, only there are cruise ships bound for Sichuangziu. Before leaving, nothing major happened to cause further delays. Not to mention encountering a deep-sea flagship, not even an ordinary deep-sea destroyer appeared. All in all, the trip went smoothly. After packing up our things, the ship girl branch sent someone to drive the yacht to take everyone to the port city. After shopping at the pier, we boarded the cruise ship early and waited for the ship to depart. We waited until evening to set off the boat, and it was already many days later. The cruise life these days is nothing more than that, carrying a lot of spiritual food. I haven't finished reading the thick novel that I first took away from Hood's bookshelf. I enjoy the beautiful writing and even more enjoy reading The Head-Maid, red sleeves add fragrance to my night. In fact, the little Loli also brought a lot of comics and fairy tales with her. As long as she could kill time, Sugu was in a state of accepting all comers, and she could read simple and childish fairy tales very happily. It was also interesting to watch Andrea teach Kaio a lesson every day. Even if she happened to see the ship girl climbing onto the cruise ship with a rope ladder after the shift, Ellie could talk about it for a long time and understand Kaio's sadness. Holding the big Lolita in his arms, Antonio listened to Andrea's nagging. "Ko, what kind of ship girl do you think that is?" As an admiral, Sugu had worked hard in the academy, and Sugu knew the uniforms of any ship girl, but when he tried to speak, Andrea glared at him, so he could only shut up. Even if he studies hard, he is really not smart. He gets a headache when he sees various ship equipment. Who has several chimneys and who has how many cannons? It is impossible to tell them apart. Ko shook his head. "I don't know." "You don't know these things, and you haven't studied hard yet. I have grown up, and the parameters of the ship's equipment have become more powerful. As for you, the parameters of the heavy artillery, the speed is so slow, I can't even serve as a guard, and I can't keep up with the speed of the cruise ship." As a low-speed battleship, Kalyot's speed was only 22 knots. Cargo ship escort may be possible, but it really can't compare to quite a few cruise ships. After all, in order to outrun the deep-sea ship, many of the cruise ship's talent points are focused on speed. You don't listen when I say it, you don't understand it when you listen, you don't do it when you understand it, you do it wrong when you do it, you don't admit it when you do it, you admit it but don't change it, you don't accept it when you change it, and you don't talk about it even if you don't accept it. Then what do you want me to do? Andrea chattered a lot. Kaio had a low self-esteem, but when his sister said this, he immediately shed tears of grievance, and then Andrea began to comfort him again. In cruise life, it is also common to tell stories to little Lolita, and occasionally tell other things. For example, sea orzes are born by male sea orzes, and they have pouches. The bird-tailed mantis shrimp is a powerful boxer. In the depths of the sea, where no one can go, there are SpongeBob and Patrick hidden there. At this time, Ko is always listening. She likes to say Mr. Pliers and Mr. Seagull like a child. Time gradually passed, and something happened that made Sugu feel quite guilty. The cruise ship docked at the port of a city, and many people boarded the ship. Among those who boarded the ship halfway, Sugu met a familiar admiral. Although it's nice to chat with your own ship girl, it's also nice to chat with the admiral occasionally. You can talk about things that are not convenient for the ship girl. What a coincidence. Due to the relationship with York City, there is probably no way to change Sugu's nickname. But it's not too bad, so it doesn't matter. At least it's better than an ambiguous nickname like Brother Sug. Sugu said, "I just came back from the West, how about you?" "I took a few days off and went home to take a look. I have to rush back to the town hall next time." "I didn't see your ship girl." "She sleeps in the cabin. Apart from work, she is usually very lazy. I stayed in the West for a long time. I set off in early spring and it was already summer when I came back. Considering the climate of the town hall, you can already swim in the water wearing a swimsuit. Such a long time is enough for a lot of things to happen." Advisor Su said, "I have been outside and have not returned to the town hall. Is there anything major happening during this time?" "No big deal, no deep-sea flagship." "Well, by the way, I remembered someone said that the governor in charge of our sea area wants to retire. But I don't know the truth yet. Our governor is not too old, so he shouldn't retire so early. If you were really asked to be the governor, would you be interested?" Sugu waved his hand to show that he was not interested and replied, "Forget it, I'm not happy. What's the point of being a governor? It's better to have a wife and children on the hotbed. The governor has no real power, so the right to take the lead and raise his hand doesn't count. In name only. Leader, but it is a pity that the admirals are all thorny and do not listen to the announcement. Although I am also a thorny leader, in fact, to be honest, everyone said that it is not that easy to be the governor, and anyone can do it. The garrison itself, it needs to be very powerful, it needs to have impressive achievements, it needs to be popular, and it needs to be able to rally everyone. Anyway, there are many things. I'm not too interested in the governor. I think life is almost better. Is there anything else big going on? Nothing serious. I just thought of something and forgot about it. Well, have you seen the battleship USSR? Sugu recalled it carefully, but he had never seen it in the game. He came here and heard about it, but never actually met it. It is said that it is a very interesting battleship. He said, "Dear Dovorich. Ha, I have never seen the Soviet Union." What's wrong? Someone has seen the Soviet Union. Everyone knows about it and plans to fish it out. The Soviet Union has no requirements for the admiral, as long as he can drink with her. The Soviet Union can use ship equipment to burn alcohol. As a ship girl, her only weakness is her feelings. Other than that, she can hardly be harmed. Alcohol is a child's problem. You are insulting the Soviet Union. Comrade, vodka. Dun dun dun. My fault, but no one can drink from her. Not yet. Think about it, the ideal women of a group of drunken crew members of the old world battleship USSR, how can they compare with the Soviet Union in drinking? That's true. Speaking of which, have you seen the Falcon? No. She wears round eyes and is super cute. I saw her at a kanji branch. Sugu said, I'm not very interested in the Harrier anymore. I want the submarines U-96 and U-156, either one is good. What a coincidence, I want it too. Looking around speechlessly, Sugu continued to ask, speaking of which, have you found any traces of deep-sea Yamato again? Even if the deep-sea flagship is destroyed, it will reappear. It has been quite a while since she was suppressed. If she wakes up from the sea again, I'm afraid she will cause trouble for you first. You probably won't dare to trouble me again. I was so humiliated. As long as I had a little bit of intelligence, I probably wouldn't come here again. As long as you gather the deep-sea braves Ryajo, deep-sea Shoukekuzi Wikaku, and deep-sea Akagakaga, no matter how powerful your garrison is, I don't care. If such a deep-sea flagship really appeared, Sugu would probably have no problem defeating it. However, in such a battle, who would be unlucky, similar to the Kathood or something like that, someone might break through and sink. If possible, it is better not to encounter such a thing. Sugu replied, it's a pity that this kind of luxurious configuration will not appear. That's true. Except for older sisters and younger sisters, few deep-sea flagships would unite together, otherwise every family's garrison would have been bulldozed long ago. As for why it doesn't appear, some people say that every deep-sea flagship is proud, while others say that the intelligence of deep-sea flagships is not that high. Anyway, there are probably any reasons. It would be great if Akagi appeared alone in the deep sea. It would be great if we could capture them. Sugu held his chin in thought. I like their thighs. I would also like. The thighs of Leg Senyaisen are great, but it should be said that the best is what you can't get. Fukamai Akagi Kaga really wants to see it. Sugu thought of Akagi and Kaga in his own family. After Akagi's transformation, although her breasts were still big, her figure became that of a girl. Kaga is an alcoholic and has a slender figure. Privately speaking, judging from their stature, Fukamai Akagi Kaga was easily defeated. If you encounter a deep-sea flagship, you will not show mercy at all, but there is nothing wrong with discussing it in private. The two discussed a lot, and there was no doubt that Fortress G was number one, and Tirpitz of the Deep Sea was firmly in second place, while the remaining positions were still open to discussion. Sugu suddenly said, the deep-sea flagship has wisdom? Do you think they would find it funny if they knew we were discussing these things? We are all enemies. Just be funny, I want to give you a psyche ring. Asshole, mine. At this moment Veneto came over, looking like he was in trouble. Somewhat unexpectedly, Veneto spoke before Sugu introduced her. Hello, I am the battleship Veneto. After introducing herself, Veneto approached Sugu and left without saying a few words. Sugu said he would go back after a while. Veneto. Sugu replied, yes, my ship girl. Asshole, forget it, I don't have any hope for you anymore. Well, the first time I saw Veneto, everyone said she was a little Lolita, but she was actually true. If she didn't introduce herself, I would still think I want to ask you, what kind of destroyer is she? I didn't think there was anything wrong at first, but after hearing these words, Sugu suddenly felt a little sad. If you don't introduce yourself, you will be thought of as a destroyer. As a majestic battleship, being treated as a destroyer would probably be very embarrassing even if it was explained clearly afterwards. Why did Veneto introduce himself before introducing himself? I'm afraid he has experienced this kind of thing many times. What a miserable experience, how can life be so difficult? Thinking about it again, even though he is small, Veneto is still very capable. After communicating with Colorado in the Kanji branch, it was easy for Veneto to become a leader. But she didn't, so what's the specific reason? As a leader, you need to run outside often. If you are not careful, you will be thought of as a little Lolita or a destroyer, and you absolutely don't want to go out. Back in the cabin, Sugu apologized to Veneto. Sorry. Veneto was baffled. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 631. He had just experienced a disastrous failure, and the exercise had been completely defeated. Hindenburg was sitting on the edge of the dock with some melancholy. Money makes a man bold, and he would not dare to do anything without money. For a battleship like the Hindenburg, power is everything. Without it, nothing will go smoothly. I rarely met opponents in the past, and there was no one who could jump under me. Arrogance are nothing. If you have the ability, come and beat me. When I came to the garrison, I felt that everything had changed. Bismarck, Prince of Wales, Tirpitz, and many more were not listed one by one. Even little Lolita and North Carolina were able to defeat me. There is no chance for arrogance anymore. I don't dare anymore. I feel like my temper has gotten better recently. Standing next to Hindenburg, Missouri was holding an enamel bowl filled with fruit. These were prepared by Yuxian, Pinghai, and Ningai, and Chongqing was also taking action. Anyway, she dug out a big bowl, and at this moment she poked a piece of pineapple with a fork and put it into her mouth. Hindenburg, I told you, now you believe it? He was still proud and arrogant, but the defeats of these days are still vivid in his mind, especially the happy smile of Missouri watching the game is unforgettable. Hindenburg was not the kind of person who lived in his own world. Facing the sea breeze, he inserted his fingers into his gray hair and smoothed it out, acting like a little girl. With someone familiar around me, I absolutely couldn't believe this scene. The eldest sister, who usually looked arrogant on the outside and was silly on the inside, would just flick her bangs and shake her head coolly. Hindenburg admitted his failure. I believe it, they are very powerful. Missouri sighed in her heart. She originally planned to train with someone in partnership, but someone got off the boat midway. I can't wait any longer, so I can only do the training unilaterally. It's always a lot less fun for a person. Saratoga treats people badly and is cold, making it impossible for the two of them to play together. Then he bullied Hindenburg, and no like-minded people could be found in the entire garrison. Missouri looked at the boundless blue sea in the distance and asked, Hindenburg, do you remember when we joined the battle group? The most powerful battle group in the world, everyone is a top battleship. Each shipgirl branch has a combat group, but these combat groups have no way to deal with the deep-sea flagship. Then we can only gather the most powerful and potential shipgirls in the world to form a battle group. Hindenburg and Missouri were members of this battle group at the beginning. With a rare smile, Hindenburg didn't care whether the ground was dirty or not. He just lay down on the stone tiles on the pier and said, "Ha, Don't you think it's ridiculous to be the strongest in the world? After coming to the garrison and meeting so many people, Hindenburg even looked down upon the previous combat team. Missouri said, "Our garrison will not consider it. We feel that everyone is completely like a monster from another world. Think about it, you have never heard of their achievements before, but they are so powerful." Alas, don't say it, they said it sadly. Hindenburg, do you still remember how many people there were in our combat group? Hindenburg sat up from the ground. The battle group was a long time ago, but the feelings accumulated on the life and death line on the battlefield were extremely strong, and she remembered it clearly. She rubbed her brows and said, You left the combat team a long time ago and traveled around the world. You also said you wanted to be an actor, and everyone still expected to see your movies, but until now, they haven't. I had already joined the crew, and I was still the heroine. I had memorized all the lines in the script, but the fat director actually wanted to kill me for my life. I had no choice but to give him a kick. I wonder if he has recovered now." Hindenburg continued, "Our opponent's deep-sea flagship, the Enterprise, is mainly responsible for air defense. She can only clean up small boats, and she also wants to launch aircraft in night battles. We went to see her last week. To be honest, she is still great, big leader. In the past, there were always many people who recognized her as the eldest sister or eldest lady. I'm not surprised which position she ended up in." Missouri explained, "Enterprises are inherently very charming, or friendly. For example, when we encountered the destroyer William, no one dared to approach, but only Enterprises dared to pass by. What everyone did was seen by everyone. In my eyes. Regardless of joining the town government, the company is definitely worth following. Rodney looks very gentle, a British lady, and she usually takes the initiative to make snacks for us. Among all the people, she has the most brutal fighting style. She will definitely kill the enemy. You all say that she is actually a sick girl. Here she is. I remember she left the combat team for a long time. Where did she go?" Normally, Hindenburg would have looked down upon British ships with disdain. "After failing for many days, I suffered a lot, my mood hit rock bottom, and I had no interest in ridiculing anymore." Missouri also recalled his former companion Rodney, who was cute, innocent, and would become very shy after being disgraced. He also liked to wear white stocking boots. "She is a cute girl, but her fighting is crazy." She said, "I heard from the company that Rodney left the combat team and later joined the town government. He got married a few years ago. The company also went to the wedding and said that the admiral was very handsome. He was so handsome. He was so handsome. Can't close my legs." Missouri, you're getting so vulgar. Missouri is a little troubled, usually being too heavily influenced by someone. Hindenburg glanced at Missouri and laughed, "You and that Sugu, when will you get married?" Missouri was eating fruit and spitting lychee cores into the sea. She said with an indifferent expression, "If we get married, I will appoint you to be the maidservant. We sleep in the inner room, and you sleep in the outer room. Before we go to bed, you just be responsible for warming the bed. If I'm not around, you'll be responsible for taking care of the bed. If you do a good job, I might promote you to a concubine someday. I'm quite generous." Normally there would have been a quarrel, but Hindenburg was in a particularly bad mood today, staring at the ups and downs of the sea. "We are all gone. Our instructors seem to be still working as instructors. They are the first batch of awakened ship girls in this world. From the emergence of deep-sea ship girls, to the Dark Ages, and then to the establishment of the ship girls' headquarters, they have come through ups and downs. Anyway, I can't do it if I dedicate myself to my job for the rest of my life." Thinking of something, Missouri suddenly laughed, "I remember that you just joined the combat team, and you didn't know the heights of the sky. You even challenged the instructor and asked the instructor to pin you directly on the water. They came from the very beginning and didn't know what was happening to them. Show mercy. Hindenburg retorted, you have been taught a lesson, and then you smile with a straight face and pretend to be indifferent, but you are actually very unhappy. You are not paying attention in class, you lift your hair and eyebrows to show off, and you scold the instructor. Missouri, why are you joining the combat team? You'd better lie down on a man's bed. Every time I think of your stinky fart, I want to laugh. Everyone came from all over the world and they were all battleships. In fact, everyone was unruly. He had just joined the combat group, and although he did not provoke the instructors like Hindenburg, he still had no shortage of killing sticks. Mentioning the past embarrassment, Missouri was not angry on the surface. She said, Instructor, I used to feel that they were very strong and could not be compared to them no matter how much they trained. Later, I worked hard to study, train, practice, and attack every day, and my training gradually improved, and I felt that they were also not very powerful. In terms of ship equipment parameters, many of them are not as good as us, such as the instructors of the Queen Elizabeth. To be honest, the ship equipment is really weak. He still respected the instructor, but he spoke impudently. Hindenburg said, Instructor of the Queen Elizabeth, ha, her skirt looks like a chicken butt. Missouri smiled contemptuously. She had worn that kind of skirt. It would be better to say that she had worn all kinds of clothes in the world. She said, You are not educated. What do you know? That kind of skirt is called a skirt. Hindering the fight, Hindenburg didn't like any skirt. Of course, he still cared about the fat on his chest. All the fruits in the enamel bowl had been eaten. Missouri put the bowl on the container, held down her long brown hair with both hands, and smiled. When we came to the garrison, do you think it looks like we just joined the combat team? Well, then it was better at first, but it felt really difficult at the time. Bismarck and the Prince of Wales can now see their backs. If you are lucky, you can defeat them. It has been half a year since I joined the garrison, and now I have defeated the Prince of Wales. Beat Washington. Only because I get discouraged every time I see her. I really can't beat her. I think of a guy with medium long pink hair who never goes out every day and teaches Bismarck a lesson every day. It seems useless, but its strength is extraordinary. Hindenburg felt powerless. Such a person was actually a German ship, and such a person was actually called the Lonely Queen of the North. After a pause, she came to her senses, looked at Missouri sideways, and asked, Are you trying to comfort me? They kept failing, but they just told the story of working together in the past, which made people suspicious. Missouri shook his head, No, I'm just bored and thinking about the past. I haven't seen my old friends and comrades in arms for a long time. I miss them a little. I joined the garrison and I'm not as carefree as before. It's fine if you don't, I don't need your comfort at all. Hindenburg stood up, her melancholy expression regained her madness. She stretched out her hand towards the governor's house and raised her middle finger, I will crush everyone here. They are just a bunch of scum, kneeling in front of me. Missouri had written down everything Hindenburg did and said, but unfortunately it was inconvenient to bring a camera and was unable to capture this taunting gesture. Her expression remained unchanged and she said casually, Crush them in 1 year, or crush them in 100 years. These days are growing, one day is bigger than many days in the past. If we continue at this pace, becoming stronger is within easy reach. Hindenburg sneered, It doesn't take that long, it only takes a month. Missouri was non-committal, she shook her head, I don't believe it. Hindenburg snorted. Missouri took the initiative, Don't set a small goal. Then just beat South Dakota in 1 month. If you lose. Before he finished speaking, eating a cup will make you wiser. He has gained a lot of wisdom these days. Hindenburg looked at Missouri and scolded, You are enough. Do you think I will still be fooled by you? Are you scared? Missouri pretended to be funny, making people want to punch her in the face. Well, you only need to defeat South Dakota once, and I will wear a maid outfit for a week. If you can't do it, then you can't wear the maid outfit for a week, but if you wear the bunny girl outfit, you only need to wear it for one day, and you can't just stay in the room. How about this bet? Hindenburg was still hesitating, but she felt unhappy when she saw the smile on Missouri's face getting bigger and bigger. It's so arrogant to think that we only have to beat South Dakota once in a month. Okay, no one should regret it. Hindenburg lowered his head and his voice was firm. Okay, I'll wait to put on the maid uniform. As Missouri said this, she thought to herself that she didn't care about the maid costume at all. It didn't matter even if she was wearing a little devil costume, and it didn't matter if she lost. Haha, it would be interesting to see Hindenburg in a maid outfit. I will definitely take a photo of it for my collection. Defeating South Dakota once in a month sounds easy, but you can't expect South Dakota to practice with you every day. The little fat guy can only accompany you once a week at most, but it's just 4 or 5 times, which I don't understand. Well, I still need to communicate with South Dakota. The two discussed the details, and Missouri was thinking about where to start setting up a trap, but he never noticed anyone coming from a distance. After being away for a long time, Sugu finally returned to the town hall again, not knowing what he would encounter. He did not see York City, which usually liked to fly carrier-based aircraft at the dock, but unexpectedly saw Hindenburg and Missouri. Sugu waved, "Hello, how are you?" Seeing Sugu, she was surprised for a moment. Missouri smiled happily. There was a good show to watch. Everyone in the town hall was tired of waiting. She said, "You still know how to come back?" "Of course I know I'm back." Sugu grinned, still familiar with Missouri. "Miss you, Missouri." Missouri crossed her arms and said, "Haha." Hindenburg regained her fighting spirit. After being together for so long, especially during the time on the cruise ship, she and Sugu became familiar. At this time, she saw many little Lolita walking onto the pier behind her, and she smiled disgustedly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you Lolita control, you brought back a lot of destroyers, that's not bad. Originally still smiling, these were the sisters from the garrison. After hearing Hindenburg's words, Veneto's expression changed drastically. We are all sisters in the town hall, and Veneto's character is also mature. She explained, "I am not a destroyer." Hindenburg, the silly eldest sister, was carefree and laughed, "You are so short and your breasts are so small. If you are not a destroyer, are you a battleship?" Veneto was not without temper. She said coldly, "Who are you calling the destroyer?" The arrogant eldest sister Hindenburg doesn't know how to be polite and never pays much attention to it. She always hugs the little loli whenever she wants without caring about her feelings at all. She reached out and lifted Veneto up, pretend to be mature. Sugu stood watching and saw Veneto being lifted high. He had thought about the scene at first, but he didn't dare to do it. He didn't expect Hindenburg to do it. I thought to myself, "Hindenburg, stop it. You don't know what a cruel fate you hold in your hands."